So I will bite my tongue, tame these emotions.
Thanks, everybody. That's a wrap. Thanks for joining us for this fourth edition of No Small Podcast. I went like this. I don't know why I went like this. But this is the fourth edition of No Small Podcast. And today, it feels weird to say, but we're talking about men. And so this is the third song on it's a joke. It's become one of these weird jokes, and we'll never get away from it.
This podcast goes out to Mike Havrilla.
Yes, thank you, Mike,
It does.
because we'll never be able to think about the song the same after spending time with you. So we have a special end to this podcast, and hope you guys enjoy that. Hope you guys like that. I will tell you this one's a little bit of a lengthy one, and so we're just gonna get right to it. I think, for me personally, I think this was one of the hardest songs on the album for us to come up with. It's one that JT and I painstakingly mulled over for a long time. This went through many different iterations. I don't know. You want to talk about like kind of where we wanted to go musically with it, some influence behind that?
Right. So we knew at the outset of the song, we were trying to focus on this idea of three stories. And so we wanted to talk about our grandfathers, our fathers, and then transition to talking about our sons. Two of the band members now have sons. Two of them do not. And so, it was
now we all have fathers, though.
Yeah, we're all sons.
Yeah, so it all works out. But yeah, I mean, like Sean said, we tried to go through. We went through a lot of iterations because we tried to take. I think this is the first time that we've tried to approach a song with a storytelling aspect.
Definitely.
That was challenging.
Yeah, and it was like more of a conversation too. So not only was it a story bringing up some background, but there's also this. It's a conversational element to this song that moves from kind of past to present to future. Really weird movements.
Yeah, we're trying to conglomerate a bunch of patriarchal figures into 12 lines of a verse, basically.
Yeah.
So it was a lot, but I think we tried to strike a nice balance of historical accuracy, I guess, by kind of picking and choosing like different aspects from different patriarchal figures. So yeah, it was our first time trying to do a storytelling song, a conversational storytelling song. And so I think that actually that really.
So is it like post-hardcore conversational storytelling song?
Yeah, exactly.
Post-hardcore, post alt-rock
Bluegrass
storytelling.
Bluegrass, Southern rock.
There's some twang in there.
It's actually
vocally, and not just vocally.
Yeah, it's actually it's spoken word, but with music and singing, and nothing being spoken. No, but so it works out really well because we knew that we wanted to do this storytelling thing, and a genre, as weird as it is, like the genre that is really good at storytelling is country music. And so I think that was,
I'm telling you.
Yeah. So that's where a lot of the musical influence for this song came from.
Which was really weird.
Yeah.
Because granted, I grew up on country music because of my parents, but
think there's
to go like kind of deep further back than like
Achy
just
Breaky Heart. Didn't you do a music video to that?
I did a music video for Billy Ray Cyrus, Achy Breaky Heart at a theme park.
We'll see if we can dig that up and
video.
release it as a bonus.
Yeah, bonus track. Might have to get the rights to that. No, but
Yeah.
so this song, we knew what we wanted. We knew where we wanted to go with it from the beginning. That we wanted to address really what it means to be a man, right? I think, I guess masculinity, maybe, is kind of on the assault, right now in popular culture. And I think that it's the perfect opportunity for the Christian to stand up and say, hey, everybody's trying to figure out, what does it mean to actually be a man? We know what it is, and here it is. And so we really, kind of mulled over, we could have taken this in the, what does it mean to be a man? What defines man? Jesus, right? I mean, truly. And we could have written from that aspect, but we decided to write from the aspect of, okay, to get way more personal, not that Jesus isn't personal, but to get really personal with us in our individual stories was, how is Jesus emulated to us by the men in our lives? And so by our grandfathers, by our fathers. And then it was, we're going to turn that, because the question in the song is, what defines man? And we answer that with these 4 things. But we're not saying those things to ourselves. We're not asking the question and then answering ourselves. We're asking the question and then telling our sons, telling our children. And so the song is very much a legacy song about what we learned and passing that down. And we'll get into more of that in a few minutes. But yeah, like Josh said, we listened to a lot of country. I remember some of the influence, we spun a record that I found in a house that I was renovating from Mr. Dave Dudley called Last Day in the Mine. Got some influence from that, so go look that up. It's pretty sad. It's like a really sad story, but it's like so happy, and it's like the weirdest thing in the world. So Johnny Cash, Chris Stapleton. Chris Stapleton's a very talented writer, very talented storyteller. So we dove into a little bit of him for this song. I don't know who else. I kind of think it's not country. It's not country by any means, because I would crucify for saying it. But I was even saying The Widow by As Cities Burn is a very like legacy from the other side of a bad legacy narrative type story. Very, very powerful song.
Yeah, I mean, like a lot of the alt country stuff these days, like doesn't fit the mainstream country genre very well, but there's a lot of bleed over with alt country and what you see in some of the post-hardcore stuff out there. Like it's crazy how much bleed over there is between those genres. Like if you actually give it a chance, like if maybe you don't actually listen to a lot of country, and so a lot of it, is pretty crappy and mainstream. But if you give some of the alt country stuff a listen, like it's really, really solid stuff. You really can't deny how good some of it is.
Yeah. I actually I also wrote down Ballot of Buster Scruggs was actually kind of a weird kind of influence.
Man. That is the movie that I listened to and never watched because I was driving to audio feed.
Yep. Yeah. Roku stick and the hotspot there for you.
Right. But, the Coen brothers just kind of touch on a lot of great themes. But, cool water and when a cowboy trades a spur for wings, like, it's just good, man. Great vocal melodies and stuff. And, like, those are the things that just hook.
I know when we talked in that songwriting book that we read, one of the things that stuck out to me was that there was a chapter on within verses and choruses these that he called it furniture, right?
Mm.
So
Oh yeah, I remember that.
when you're setting up a verse or a chorus, right? It's like a room, right? And you want to give people a place that they can sit down, a place that they can connect. So we talk about our grandfathers, our fathers, talking about, I remember the calluses on my grandfather's hands, because he worked all of his life, and you could see it physically on his hands. And so, that when you're doing that in verses and choruses, picking things, some details, places that people can sit and relate to. You can't shove a ton of furniture in the room, but also if it was just one single chair in the middle of an empty room, that's kind of awkward too. And so when you're writing in the writing process, that's a big part of it, and picking those things from our experiences. And so there's a couple really cool production, one really kind of full circle production. And I guess I'll say that if y'all are cool with me doing that story real quick.
Yeah, go for it.
So you guys know where we go and write is this place in West Virginia, my family's place. And we would go, we demoed the song, and then after we demoed the song, I'd lay a vocal take on top of the song, just like a one take vocal thing that we could use to mix the song and listen back to it and make sure
That was after we hammered out the lyrics.
Right, after we hammered out the lyrics. And actually the funny thing is Men was one of the first songs we wrote while we were there, and we actually spent like 8 hours, over double what we had allotted for each song, and finished lyrics to Men. And we did not finish any other lyrics to any other song, because after that we said we can't do it. So, but we finished the lyrics to Men. And so I put down that vocal take and brought it home. And so I was in the studio, we had recorded done final tracking. This was like a month or so after the whole demo thing. And was really just not feeling it at all. Really not feeling the takes that I had. And just like Waltman doing a ton of guitar takes, I did a ton of vocal takes, and I just was not feeling it.
In the studio,
right. And it was really pieced together, like a phrase here, word here from this take, a line from this take, and it didn't feel right. And so I'd already deleted the files from our West Virginia takes. So I ended up digging for it, and I had actually buried it somewhere, and not out in my backyard, but I'd actually buried it somewhere, and I ended up finding the takes that we did. And I popped that take because we hadn't changed the metronome or anything, and I'd used the same microphone that I'd used for all the other recording. And I popped the take in there, and with the exception of the chorus in one line, that's the take we used. And so I'm not saying I'm a one-take person, because I'm not. But that song, literally, the verses to that song, like I said, with the exception of a line, was one take, and it was the take from the demos in West Virginia. And so it wasn't until after that I got to thinking about it, and I was like, this is so crazy, because the song is about my grandfather, both of my grandfathers, my father, our fathers and grandfathers. And I'm sitting here, and the vocal track that I'm using, I recorded it literally in the place that my grandfather built with his hands. And so it was just a really crazy full circle kind of give you chills a bit kind of moment for this song. And it really just took this song, just for me personally, just took the song to another level for me. But any other weird production things in this that you guys remember?
Daggone slide guitar.
Yeah, I think for me was the trying to put the slide guitar in there, which, my guitar is not set up for slide. My guitar is set up for what we normally do. So that was fun trying to get that to work, but I really liked how it came through in the first verse. And honestly, like it was a gamble. I was going to say it was kind of a risk. I didn't know what you guys were going to think. In fact, I think if memory serves, I had to sell you on it. But it was kind of a wink and a nod to the fact that we're doing a story country style song with this kind of like eerie slide feel or whatever. And like, to me, what the slide does in that verse is it kind of brings you back, like this is a memory that we're recalling in the song. Like it kind of has that instrumental type feel and vibe to it.
Yeah, those are the things that I really love. That's the thing I love about the process is that I have something that I think the song's going to sound like. You come in, Waltman or Brandon or JT, and put something down that you're sitting by yourself, you're experiencing the song in your own interpretation and what you're hearing, and you come lay it down, and I get to experience a song in 4 different varieties, and how all of those things come together to make what the final product is. And so, and then times like that are what kind of push me to do that little like falsetto ooh part in that like second part of that verse, and in the verse at the end, that ooh, it just felt like, yeah, when ooh,
okay, yeah,
it was very Mariah Carey. But it was just, it felt Western to me. It felt like it was this very Western theme, this little ooh part there at the end.
I got lucky on the drum part because I was looking for something to play to that, like that was kind of like rhythmic, but not like that was still interesting, but not like gonna take away. And it just happened that I think JT and I were going up the road to like probably to get a milkshake at Cookout is where I think we were going, and and he put on a song by Let Live, and like I don't know, just what the dude was playing on drums, and I'm like, dude, that's a really cool concept. And granted, that song also inspired something else on the record, but I won't ruin that.
We'll get
you know
there.
What I'm saying? We'll get there. But like I, when I like went to play like my version of it, I was like, this is. I mean, it made it kind of interesting, but it almost made it like, almost kind of like a gallop or something. I don't know. It was weird. And then JT doing the, like he did, like that's what it was too.
There's another part in this song that's really crazy too, is that there is this tape recording at the very beginning and very end of the record. And the crazy thing was I found this Akai tape deck in the basement of a house that we were renovating, and
reel to reel.
Yeah, a reel to reel. It was real. It was a reel to reel.
Real.
And so it was faux reel. And so they were going to throw it away, and I was like, well, let me take it home and see if it works. And so I brought it home, plugged in, it worked, and I started playing, and it was a bunch of these home recordings. And so I found this part in it where the guy's talking about he's talking about it was a meteor, right?
Yeah, it was
the meteor.
No, okay. I went back.
No, it was the eclipse. It was the eclipse. That's what it was.
The last solar eclipse. Yeah. I'm just gonna commandeer this story now. But yeah, so it's weird because like I guess this is one of the songs that doesn't include one of the natural disasters, but at the very end they're talking about this fairly rare natural phenomenon of like a total solar eclipse or whatever. And so I guess they were sitting out back with the
burning
tape
their
deck. Elbows. They got the microphone and everything, and so there's this conversation, and I had to like go back and like listen to it pretty hard just to make sure that I understood what was being said.
Well, the first part was like testing out the recorder, wasn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, I was gonna let Sean talk about that.
Oh, sorry.
But yes, at the end, there's the father figure on the tape deck there says, in reference to the solar eclipse, he says, "Well, you've got a pretty good chance of seeing the next one. I don't have much of a chance." and that's like right before the airplane zooms by or whatever. But yeah, I mean, like out of everything, we're talking about the song, we're talking about leaving a legacy, we're talking about the men in our lives and everything, and like, you know, here's this father figure talking to his son on the tape deck, saying like, yeah, you know what, like, you know, circle of life or whatever, but you know, I'm not going to be around for the next one. You know, maybe this is a thing that you have with your kids one day or whatever. But it was a really powerful and really unexpected moment to find randomly on a tape deck.
And then the next random super weird thing is like we went a little bit further and it like skipped over to like this Christmas Day or something like that. And he's talking to this little kid about like this rocking chair or rocking horse or something.
Yeah.
All of a sudden,
Rocking chair.
Yeah, he's like,
Yeah.
he says, "Say something into the microphone, Sean. Say something." And I'm like, what the heck is going on here? So we were like, dude, we should totally just intro the track with "Say something into the microphone, Sean. Say something." And then what defines man?
I remember leaving the studio when you guys pulled out. Like it was like the day to work on like production stuff. And I remember leaving the studio like that afternoon or something to go do something. I don't remember what it was. And I was coming back. And when I came back and you guys like played that for me, like my jaw hit the ground because I was like, did he just say Sean?
Crazy.
It was creepy, but it was awesome.
All right, speaking of crazy, we have a treat for you all now. We were thinking about using these gentlemen to do a music video for men, which may possibly happen in the future. But we want to introduce you to our dads. So let's see if they're here. And everybody's here. So want to introduce you all to the great men in our lives. I know our computer screens are going to be kind of discombobulated. What I'm seeing is not necessarily what video will be. So as I introduce you, if you just will wave. But we have Mr. Wayne Osborne. That is Brandon's father. We have Mr. Neal Waltman. That is Josh Waltman's father down there. And Mr. Scott Tomlinson, sporting some – I don't know where he's at. He's definitely not social distancing and staying at home. Being an airplane of some sort. That is Josh Tomlinson's father. And we have finally my dad, Pete Hypes, right down the street from me. So thank you guys for coming on here.
Yeah, thank you.
If anybody wanted to know, if Denz is still playing music in, just a few years from now, I'm not going to say 30 or 40 years from now, but just a couple years from now, take a look at those faces because that's probably what you'll see when you that show. Something similar to that. So beautiful faces. So it would be a good time. I also want to do, because this song Men is a song that we wrote about things that we had learned from the men in our lives. So you guys, our grandfathers, and but it's a conversational song, and it's not reflective to us, but it's a conversational song specifically to our sons, my son and Mr. Josh Waltman's son. So we're gonna let.
Boy.
Yup.
This is going to be a generational thing.
We go.
And what we're going to do is talk about the four parts of this song. And I've given each one of these guys a part. I'll ask them some questions. And you guys get to experience what we have gotten to grow up with. And so as you all impart your wisdom, not only to those that are listening, but to these little ones that are listening too. It's important that they hear it as well. And so this song is split up into four parts. And the first part is going to go to Mr. Wayne talking about the talk on our tongue, the things that we say. And so Wayne is a small business owner. Wayne owns a couple hair salons. And so not only as a father, not only as a husband, but as not only as a believer, as a Christian, but as a small business owner too. How important is it when we talk about the things as men, as humans, people, the things that we say, the words that we choose to use as we interact with people? I know I don't know that you've ever gotten frustrated with Brandon. I don't know if that's ever happened or not. But when we talk about the things that we say, how defining is that as a man?
I think it's very important, as you probably learned with your little one following behind you. They're always within hearing distance, and they catch you at the most inopportune times when you get angry, and sometimes things slip out. We're not perfect, but I think it's important to watch what we say, because Brandon is a spitting image of me. I see so much of myself, my dad, my grandfather, all of those things wrapped up in him, and he didn't even know my grandfather. So it's very eye-opening when they grow up and you hear what they have to say. It comes back. Brandon has shared that with me, and I didn't know he was listening so well.
It's scary.
I'm usually doing the talking.
It is scary, the things that they will repeat that you never thought that they were listening to or heard you say. It will freak you out when you hear them repeat that to you. But I mean, one of the things that you said that I thought was very poignant was that we are not perfect. And, right, wrong, or indifferent, we learn what it means to be a man. Those of us that are believers, those of us that are Christians, first and foremost from the Bible. I mean, that's our guidebook. That's our pathfinder. That's our compass for what it truly means to be a man. We see that in Jesus. But right, wrong, or indifferent, we will inevitably be shaped in some form or fashion by our experience. Some people experience a bad father, and so they learn either things that either they pick up on and it becomes habitual, or things that they don't want to be. Fortunately for all of us, we grew up with dads who were very much involved in our lives, who very much loved us, who very much wanted the best for us, who very much knew how important discipline was in our lives. But they weren't perfect. And the fact that, you admit that, that, I know that. I know as a father that I'm not perfect and that I mess up. And so it's important to have that humility, right? Brandon said that you had a Sunday school lesson on this just within the past couple days.
Last night.
Yeah, that's crazy. Is there something that you took away from that lesson that you would like to just share?
Well, first of all, it was about being fast to listen and slow to speak, which hasn't always been one of my good habits.
The apple does not fall far from the tree. I can assure you of that.
So, and the other one was kindness and attitude. So, to show kindness no matter what we do, especially right now. I mean, we should do it always, but right now, people are very short fused, don't have a lot of patience, and been cooped up for a while. But attitude is something that I think I'll always have to work on, because so many things around us affect that directly, indirectly, and you just have to be conscious of it. My pastor's wife called this evening, to ask me a question, and I said, "Oh, I hope you've been praying for me today, because I haven't had the best attitude after the governor was on. So I'm not real happy with some of what he had to say, but we have to do what we have to do. But yeah, Brandon, I'm very opinionated, and that gets me in trouble sometimes.
As am I.
No, are you really? So, but at least most people know where they stand with me, and I don't mean it in an ugly way. Sometimes it doesn't come out the right way, and Brandon has experienced that, but he knows me, and I shouldn't use that as an excuse. He knows I don't mean it, but there was one thing I wanted to say, because I didn't realize when he was so small, he used to ask so many questions, and you know where I'm going with this, don't you? So
Yes, I do.
we were riding down the road, and he would ask so many questions, and it was one of those days, and I said, Brandon, could you please just be quiet for 5 minutes? He said,
That happens in the tour van all the time.
He said, well, do you want me to be stupid? I said, right now, just a little bit. But, I didn't realize he was taking it all in. And he don't miss much.
He doesn't.
I miss the really obvious things. I'm good at weird details, but I miss the really obvious things right in front of my face.
Well, and I liked what you said too, about kindness and attitude with that, because we talk in another song, in another part of the Bible, where it talks about the tongue is a tool both for blessing and cursing. And so out of the same mouth that we bless God, or that we speak kindly to one neighbor, we turn around, and because of our attitude, sometimes because those things get the best of us, our anger gets the best of us, we curse someone. And I don't necessarily mean with vulgar language, by that cursing,
Right.
but just speaking negatively to somebody, speaking angrily to somebody. So I really like that you tied those two things together, because they both go hand in hand. So I'm gonna pop it over to Mr. Neal Waltman, and Mr. Neal Waltman is he's been working for the power company for a long time. He is the father of 2 boys. He is the grandfather of one small teeny baby boy right now. And also Neal is in the Softball Hall of Fame, which takes
Yes, he is.
a lot of hard work. And so, as I was thinking through talking with you, Neal, about the works of your hands, about what it means to be a hard worker, what you do, not only as a father and a husband and a grandfather, but there at the power company. I mean, the things that you do, you cannot be lackadaisical when you're working on the job. Not only are there a bunch of people that rely on you to supply them electricity, but the job is a very dangerous job. And you've got people that work under you, that work there at the plant, that, y'all rely on each other, that you're doing the right things, and that you're doing them correctly, meticulously, with skill for each other's safety. So what are some things that through your experience that you'd like to impart to us about what it means to work hard?
Well, Sean, that was a nice introduction. I didn't even think about the Hall of Fame or softball when Josh asked me to think about this and maybe share some thoughts. But the first thought, and Josh will get this, he's heard it his whole life. The first thought about doing any kind of work with your hands or whatever is if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right the first time. So we say that, and we've said that to Josh and Jacob, my 2 sons, our whole life. And the purpose behind that is not only don't waste your time taking shortcuts. But, you know, God gives us all gifts. And whatever the gift is, whether it be working with your hands or singing or musical, whatever, we need to utilize those gifts to our best of our ability. Not only do we get pleasure from that, but God gets pleasure from that. And Josh probably has never heard me say that, but you know that you have to appreciate all the gifts that God gives you, and working with your hands and being consistent. Not only does it help provide for your family, you know, that you do that out of love for your family and everything. So that's one reason. But, you know, if we did anything less with what God gives us, we're not being a good son. So I always wanted my sons, as a father, for them to do well in life. And if they do basic things, meaning take pride in everything you do and think about it and do the best you can do every time, not only does that help you go a long way in life, it pleases God, and it makes you successful in life through God blessing you through that. So that's one of the main things that I always thought about. And, you know, it also builds character in a person. And if you build confidence in yourself, you can provide for your family. You create stability for your family and their life, and giving them opportunities. So, you know, I guess that's kind of the main thing that I was saying. And, you know, we try to make ourselves better in everything we do. We will make mistakes. You know, we're not going to, like you said, be perfect, you know, in everything we do. But if you put your best foot forward and try to do your very, very best every time, you learn from every mistake. It's already something to improve on, and you immediately know it. If you thought it through and try to do it right the first time and you fail, well, the failure is very evident, and it shows you where you need to be better as a man and grow to be better as a man and a father. So that's my thoughts on the whole deal with working with your hands.
Yeah, failure can be the best teacher. You know, working hard is stewardship. You know, it's not only being, you know, when you think of stewardship, you think of, you know, how you manage your finances, how you know, manage, you know, different things, your business. But really, it's how you manage your time. What you do with your hands. Are you being lazy? You know, also doing things in excellence is a form of worship. You know, if
That's right.
If that's the attitude that you're doing it with, it doesn't really matter what you're doing. That, you know what, God, I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to go do it in excellence because I want to please you with it. I mean, and that can really be any wholesome, pleasing thing. Definitely.
Yeah, and I'll say that, you know, the mantra, if it's worth doing, it's worth doing right. You know, you guys have heard me say that because my dad always told me that. But
it all makes sense now.
But the thing is though, it bleeds over into our playing. It bleeds over into how we do things as a band. It bleeded over into this album. You know, there's a reason I have 1 million takes on all my parts, other than the fact that I'm just not naturally good at guitar. But the thing is that, you know, forcing yourself to make it right, to make it good, even if I know that there was a small mistake, I want it to be fixed. But you know, that's how you learn to be really good at an instrument, but it's also how you learn to be a really good man.
So true.
Well, and too, you know, when you focus on that and you do these things, it's a shining example, like you were talking earlier about your kids, you know, repeating things that you say or whatever. If at a young age they see their dad go to work every day, consistently, every day, rain or shine, doing the things that he needs to do consistently every day, then, you know, that actually is a good lesson for them to grow up seeing along the way. Granted, in my household, I do work for the Ballot company, and Josh can attest to this. I missed some of the special days as him and Jacob were growing up. Some events along the way that I had to be somewhere else doing my job. And I hope, and I'm pretty sure he doesn't think that I don't love him any less for missing and doing my job to provide for them and being consistent. And also, Sean, you mentioned it also, where I work at, I could not come home any given day if I made a mistake, if I didn't do my job very well, because it is a dangerous place. And if I make a mistake, not only does it affect my coworkers, but it affects me and my family personally on a personal basis. I could lose a limb. I could not come home. I could die tomorrow if I didn't take pride and try to do the very best and safest way, work safely, be consistent, and do everything in excellence, as you say. So yes, it becomes who you are. Your work creates that character, and if you take pride in that, it's a part of who you are, and you want to pass that down to your family and kids, so that they will not only, be a glory to God in what they do, they will have opportunities and have a great, wonderful life. I mean, that's, things right, things go better. I mean, if you are persistent and build character, as a person, that's, and give the glory to God for letting him give you tools to do that. Give him all the thanks for every blessing that you have, even though, you're just trying to, do stuff out of love, just like he does, you would do stuff under his love. So maybe you're teaching love at the same time. So
that's so true. Definitely, with one of the things that you said really struck a chord with me is that, so many times, because we homeschool, right? And so, my kids are way less busy than I am. And so sometimes I get worried with that. Like, are they going to become complacent that, that they're not going and doing stuff? But with what you just said is that, it's not as much about what I push them or try to make them do, as much as making sure that I'm being consistent. And if they're seeing me being consistent, that they're going to learn that consistency. I mean, there's definitely a balance with that, just like there's a balance with anything. Like there's a balance with work and family, and finding that balance. And there's no secret formula to that balance. It is just something that by God's grace we make through, and through prayer and some hope. We hope that everything comes out the best on the other side. And I mean, none of the four of us, I don't think, have walked down any crooked path. You all laid out a pretty straight path and made sure that we stayed on it, and we are very much appreciative of that. So Scott,
even when I was kicking and screaming,
yeah, even when you were kicking and screaming, we'll get back to that.
That's kind of why you play the drums, though, right, Brandon?
When we talk, Scott, about not only the things that we say, not only the works of our hands, our actions, working hard, but where that all starts, and where that all comes from, the processing center through which that maneuvers through our brain, the things that we think. When we talk about our thoughts, how do our thoughts and character correlate?
So first, let me thank you in the introduction, you said that the four of you had good dads, and I appreciate that more than you know. And it's been work, because you talked about and others have talked about having those good role models. Well, when I was about 13, my dad got very, very sick and died by the time I was 15. And so there was a gap there, and I chose to fill it with all sorts of junk, influences around me. I'd like to say that my mind was probably mostly a cesspool. It was full of horrible junk, and what we put into our heads, the sounds, the thoughts, the images, it affects how we think, and how we think affects how we act. it becomes important, I think, and it has been in my life. And, you know, I first of all give glory to God that he was able to clean, or at least, you know, take the several top layers of junk out of my mind. And then along the way, there were other godly men who were influential. You know, sometimes, or at least in my case, there was so much junk that I had to pour a lot of good in. You know, I had to try and replace it. You know, Jesus said that what comes out of the mouth is what defiles a person, and what comes out of the mouth is what comes from our heart, comes from our very selves. You know, it is who we are. It is how we think. And, you know, I just want Neal, you're not the only one, by the way. You know, I used to travel for a living, out on Sunday, home on Friday. And I said a lot. I wasn't real fond of it, but I said a lot of times, you know, I missed an awful lot of important things. I've missed birthdays and anniversaries, and graduations and hurricanes and earthquakes. I wasn't real sad about being somewhere else for the hurricane, but, you know, still. So I think the thoughts of our head, the things that are inside, are what come out. You know, it is really who we are. It is character. Abigail Van Buren, who, if you're younger than the four dads here, you're not going to know who Dear Abby was. But Dear Abby said this. She said, the best index to a person's character is how he treats people who can't do him any good, and how he treats people who can't fight back. Said differently is, pay attention to how people treat a waiter or a waitress. A lot of the times that's really who they are. You know, if you'll treat people who you think are below you like dirt, then that says an awful lot. So to circle back to your question, I guess it is all about what we pour in, you know, and I'm grateful that I was able to have those mentors along the way, the people that guided me and continue to guide me and continue to mentor me to pour good stuff in. You know, I had to replace old junk with new good news.
Yeah, it's definitely a Philippians 4 mentality, you know.
Yeah.
Think on those things, whatever is trustworthy, noble, pure, those things are what we have to set our mind towards. And it takes a certain amount of perseverance for that.
Yeah.
I did fail to mention that Scott is not only a father and husband, he is an Air Force veteran, and he is actually one of the pastors at our church, Mission Community Church. Josh, did you want to ask something?
Yeah, I was just going to say, you know, what Scott's saying there about how you treat people, you know, that aren't going to necessarily give something back to you, and the things that you put into your mind and things like that. Like, I mean, just come, you know, we're musicians, we're in the band scene. Like that's so relevant. That's so relevant to anybody that's watching this. You know, when you're out there on tour, or you're out there at a show, or maybe you're just showing up to support a band or whatever. Maybe you're in another band. Like, it's so easy to start thinking very narcissistically and putting yourself above everything and your band above all the other bands, and to allow some of that dirt or whatever to fill your mind, so that the input is bad, so the output would be bad too. So I don't know. I just think about, like, some of you guys that are watching this, that you're involved in the band scene or whatever. Like, there's a lot of wisdom, and even just applying what Scott's saying just to our scene.
Yeah, that's so true.
So, Josh, what you said is really interesting and very important, because not only do I do those other things, I'm in the IT world, and there's an old saying in the IT world, especially in the very computer world: garbage in, garbage out. You pour junk in, you're going to get junk out. The machine will only do what it's told to do.
Yeah. Yep. I was going to say that, garbage in, garbage out. So another part of this song talks about the will of our heart. Now, maybe I'll try to ask my dad to differentiate between the will of the heart and the things that we think, or which one comes first. How are they intertwined, I guess. So to introduce, this is my father, this is Pete, and he is a 30-year career firefighter. He is a Coast Guard veteran, and he is the senior pastor of our church. And so when we lastly talk in this song about the will of the heart, the lyrics in the song go, every motive, every treasure that he desired, everlasting beyond space and time. The things that we build, the things that we will ourselves toward, are the things that we focus on. I think about legacy. I think about what we leave behind. And so we can have a rebellious will, or we can have a will towards leaving a lasting legacy. Speak to that.
I'll be glad to, and it's a privilege to be with the other 9 of us that are on this. But one thing that I will start with is that I had good role models. I had great examples of a father and a grandfather that spent a lot of time with me in the years of my development. And by the way, I was not the perfect son, and I have not been the perfect dad or husband along the way, but I praise God for his grace, as I have, and I'm thankful for my wife and my son, and now grandson, granddaughter. And so when we think about Proverbs tells us that a man's heart plans his way or his course, but the Lord directs his steps. And that has, wow, how true that has been. And as far as I have truly been blessed in my lifetime to experience the things that I've experienced, and to have, to be a dad was one of those things that was the desire of my heart. And praise the Lord, we had a son, and so just to when we think about the difference of the thoughts that come into our mind, the thoughts that we have. Wow, I mean, there's a lot of things that go through our minds. There's a lot of things that come into our minds, a lot of things that, and and then that the other part of that, the heart is inherently evil, and so we got to work diligently to stay close to the Lord and to follow the Lord, and that's been what I tried to share with my son all along the way. And it's interesting that when you're wanting to know, I can remember Sean talking to me a lot of times about what do you think I'll be when I grow up? What do you think I'll do when I grow up? And those were interesting questions that I really couldn't. And here he is today. A dad, a husband, a construction man, and a man that sings and leads worship, a pastor, and all of these things. And
I'm pretty much Bob the Builder with a guitar, I guess.
You are amazing. in my opinion. I see so much of my dad. I see so much of Becky's dad in you, and all that. Just the heart that you have, and just the type of dad that you are, and you know what a. So I mean, as far as the will of the heart, you know, I believe it's the heart is the very core of our being. That drives us. The Lord created us the way that we are, and so as far as the will of that heart and what drives us, like I say, sometimes work was more important to me than it should have been, and I too, by being a firefighter, I missed a lot of things. I was unable to be a part of a lot of things in my family's life, but there again, praise God for the man that Sean is, and the way they're raising their kids, and just what a wonderful joy it is to be a part of all of that.
And don't worry, I'm going to give the rest of you dads a few moments at the end to embarrass your children as well. So don't worry about that. But I do remember a Coast Guard poster that I'm not even sure where it came from. I didn't put it in my room, but you got it from somewhere. But it said it was this little Coast Guard boat going over this really big wave. Right. And when the Coast Guard goes out there, you know, to get somebody, it's usually not because the weather is pleasant. And the phrase at the bottom, it says, when the going gets tough, the tough keep going. And I think that all of these things that we've talked about, whether it be the talk on our tongue, the works of our hands, the thoughts in our head, they come from the core of our being. And to change those things, to wage war against those things, takes a strong will of the heart of our being, to overcome anger and bitterness, to speak kindly, to speak gently, to work hard, to persevere in that, to do it correctly, to keep garbage out of our mind and continually fill it up with pure thoughts. Those three things do not happen apart from a strong, solid will of the heart. And the thing is that it's not something that man inherently decides to do on his own. Man may be able to want to be noble rather than a rebel, but is not until, in my opinion, the Holy Spirit comes within us that we start to truly persevere correctly in the pathway of righteousness when it comes to willing towards doing good, being righteous in all three of those areas. So before we leave, and I know some of you have muted, you can unmute real quick if you want. Want to give you the opportunity quickly, and Wayne, I'm really looking at you for this one. But if there's maybe just an embarrassing story of when your son was younger, or maybe, you know, in Brandon's case, just yesterday, just an embarrassing story. Anybody have anything off the top of their head?
Well, this is a good story because it has to do with telling the truth. Brandon had gotten in trouble at school, and of course, being the dad I was, you know, I was going to war for him, and we had our little discussion, and he told me verbatim what happened. So I had made arrangements to go to the school. Well, the next morning when the time came, I said, okay, Brandon, I said, let's go over this one more time and tell me what actually happened. And the story changed quite a bit. And I was pretty easy on him, but I told him I would have been really embarrassed if I'd have gone up in the school acting a fool to take up for him when he hadn't told me the complete truth. So I hope that made a difference in him, knowing how important it is to tell the truth in times like that, or all the time.
Yeah, I remember the story that you tell about asking him if I don't know if he broke something or did something, and he said, "I didn't see me do it."
Yes, he drew on the wall in red marker, I believe, and I said, "Brandon, did you do this?" He said, "If I did, I don't remember seeing me do it."
Oh, that's Brandon, right?
Oh, man.
All right. Anything else anybody wants to add before we close this episode off?
I will just jump in and say my kids grew up hearing no, it's not an embarrassing story, Josh. Over and over and over again that your actions are speaking so loudly. I can't hear a word you're saying.
I think we may have all heard that once or twice, Scott.
Yeah, once or twice. All righty. Well, I appreciate.
Say one more thing, if I might.
Yeah, go ahead.
Brandon always asks, "Where do you hear this stuff?" I said, "Well, it was passed down from grandparents, you know." Anyway, my grandmother used to preach to me most of my childhood, but one thing she always said was the most deadliest, vile thing was the tongue. She said the tongue can do more damage than any weapon. And I believe that to this day.
I after doing the research for this record and reading the things that we've read and writing the things that we've written, I would wholeheartedly agree with you on that. Wholeheartedly. Yeah. All righty. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. Happy early Father's Day. I know it's a month away, but since I have all of you here, happy Father's Day. Thank you guys for being a part of us, part of this episode. And do you want to send us off? Do you want to say thanks for listening to No Small Podcast? Join us next time. You want to say that? Here, say it. You want to say it together? Ready? Here we go. Thanks for listening to No Small Podcast. Join us next time.
Thanks, guys.
Love
you, guys. Thank you.